Good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to a Rebels Compass and our coaching corner. Now, normally Margaret and I get together on a Monday morning to do our coaching corner, but Margaret has been very busy doing her camps with women empowerment, and she can share a little bit about that leads us into our conversation today. So, hello, Margaret. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you again, Karen.
It's
Always
good to
excited to
see
hop on
you.
the calls.
I
Yeah,
know I miss doing our Mondays, but I
me
know
too.
you were a facilitator in one of the camps that
Mhm.
you do. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I am a core leader at a camp called Soulful Retreat. It's a wonderful women's retreat camp that is held in different places in Ontario. I think they're in their sixth year. So I connected with them last year, and it's an amazing time for women to get together, deep dive into more about who they are, some of their limiting beliefs, and really reconnecting and recharging for the weekend. But it's almost like a create your own experience weekend for the women. So they can come and they can have free time all weekend. They can do activities like archery or canoeing or kayaking or swimming, or they can do arts and crafts, or they can dive into some of the things that like around what I teach and what other women there teach, which gets into more of the looking inward into learning a little bit more about who you are. It also has a spiritual flavor to it in a sense that there's a lot of crystals and cards and chakras and oracles and things that are happening there too. So it's a really amazing blend of interest and women. And so I'm at five of their camps this year because they've got five this year. So I'm like, I'm going to all. They're just so empowering. And you come back and you just feel recharged, your soul's all filled up again. You filled your cup and you're ready to take on the week. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's pretty amazing to be surrounded by all these women.
Oh, absolutely. To be around like-minded people and to be uplifted
Mm-hmm.
and inspired is amazing, is amazing. But it
Mm-hmm.
actually led us into the conversation that you and I actually started with before we came on
Mm-hmm.
camera, just checking in, uh,
Mm-hmm.
seeing where we were at. Now, Margaret and I both had something happen this weekend to us physically that is kind of leading into the conversation that we want to get into today. And that's about taking care of yourself and the masculine and feminine within each and every human being. All men have a feminine side, all women have a masculine side. So now for me, as I mentioned to you prior to getting on the camera, my neck jammed up on Monday, completely and utterly jammed up, so that on Tuesday I couldn't move my neck at all. I ended up
Mm-hmm.
having to go to a chiropractor and take some time off, cancel clients, and actually take some time for me. Now, backtrack that, let's say 25, 30 years ago,
A little bit.
a little bit, and Karen would not have done that. Karen would not have, I would not have taken the time for self-care. I wouldn't have gone to a chiropractor. I wouldn't have canceled clients. I wouldn't have just said, no, I need time for me to be able to nurture me and accept help from other people.
Mm-hmm.
I would have back then been in the very, very masculine side, that side of I just need to soldier through. I just need to get
Mm-hmm.
through this. I don't have time for this. I just need to, put up with it and get on with it. And so many of us do that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Oh,
something
we do.
you was just talking about. So if you share what happened to you and then we can get
Mm-hmm.
to the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm away at camp, all excited to be there. Happy, I'm like, woohoo, been working towards this for the week, getting all prepared. And I had a little bit of a headache on Friday on my way up, and I'm like, yeah, it's good. I've got it. Saturday morning, I woke up and I'm like, oh, this is a migraine. And I do suffer from migraines. And of course, I'm hit with the pressure, weather pressure changes, all of that. So I got up in the morning and I thought, oh, they're doing a cold water dip. I'll do that, see if that helps. It did not. So by 8 o'clock in the morning, I could barely be vertical. And I was supposed to teach that morning. I was teaching that morning and that evening. And I thought, I can't even make sentences, and I was in tears. And so I went up to the dining hall where everyone was meeting, and I was like, I can't, I'm so not feeling well. And I had so many women want to help. It was the most amazing experience. I was locked up through my neck because that's what happens with my migraines. I had women giving me shiatsu massage and oils to breathe, because Advil and Tylenol just, they don't touch my migraines anymore. And
You've frozen, Margaret. I think I've lost you.
oh,
There you
oh,
go.
am I back? There I
Yeah.
am. Yeah, it's been kind of back and forth. Okay, so anyway, I said I just need to sleep it off. So I went back down to my cabin, and I had two different women coming in like every 20 minutes, 30 minutes, checking on me. I was shaking and vomiting. It was just not pretty. And they were making sure I had blankets. They brought me stuff to help me sleep. And it was funny because I have been in my masculine for so long, running a business, looking after myself and my daughter. And I think when I look back over my life, I think I was born in my masculine and raised to be strong and independent, look after myself for a long time. So having all of these women offer help was kind of foreign.
Mm-hmm.
um, but I remember lying in bed saying, just let yourself receive the help, let yourself receive it. Because if I got a migraine at home, I just grab a cold cloth and and lie down and try and take care of it. My daughter's really good. She was, what do you need, mom? Okay. My boyfriend's like, okay, just call me if you need anything, but I look after it myself. Right.
Yeah.
Um, but this weekend, it was an amazing experience to be just flooded with support and love and people wanting to take care of me. And I had to consciously allow myself to receive it. Like, it was wonderful to receive it, but I had to like just let it happen. Let them look after you. Let them look after you. And I was like, wow, this is a new sensation for me,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been looking after myself for so long.
Yeah, and I can identify with that. Like I said, 30 years ago, for those that know me or I've shared before, I was in a huge car accident 30 years ago that changed my life
Mm-hmm.
completely. And very, very much in that masculine side, very much, for as much as I was a caretaker of everybody else, I
Mm-hmm.
was the caregiver, the almost to the point of you sacrifice yourself. I know I did sacrifice myself on
Mm-hmm.
multiple occasions, and this is another example of that. So after the car accident, I was waiting for surgery. I was waiting for a lot of things to happen. And rather than ask my husband then, or any family member or any friend to help
Mm-hmm.
me, to come and help me do stuff, I picked up a dustpan and brush and got down on my hands and knees and started sweeping the floor on my hands and
Mm-hmm.
knees rather than ask somebody to come for help. And now part of that was that feeling of, I've just got to get through this. I've got to soldier through it, which was a very British,
Mm-hmm.
just soldier through it. Just soldier through it. You'll get through it. Another one was because I felt like if I asked for help, it was a state of weakness. But
Mm-hmm.
in the process of that within my own mindset, so for as much as I was doing the program, which was just soldier through it, just be strong, you can get through this, you can do this, and the inner critic going, you're stronger than that, Karen, you can do it, you can do it,
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
also that inner critic, that inner voice that goes, I do everything for everybody and nobody's ever there for me.
Oh, I totally relate to
I
that.
do that.
Oh my
So
goodness. Yeah.
outwardly, I was the strong, independent, capable woman that had a
Mm-hmm.
mindset very, very much in the masculine, very, very much of I'm just going to soldier through this. The thing that my dad always used to say to me was, Karen, you're like a rubber ball. You always bounce back. You always bounce back, which
Mm-hmm.
tells me on my inner that I always bounce back. I never give myself time to heal. I
Mm-hmm.
always bounce back. I never give myself time to process. Back then, I never knew any of that. But
Mm-hmm.
what I did recognize when I started doing my own deep dive work and working on that process of balancing the masculine and feminine, balancing the inner critic, silencing the inner critic, bringing up my self empowerment and self worth was that double minded conversation going on, which was, I'm in my masculine, I've just got to get through this, I've just got to do this, there's only me that can do it my way, whatever conversation that was, to the other mind part saying, nobody's ever there for me, I do everything for everybody, how come I'm the only one? I remember repeating it over and over and over again, and it becomes this negative mantra that we hold on to, that holds us in place and anchors more in the masculine and the victim. So you become a victim of that state of being and perpetuate that and keep that going and keep that going and keep that going. And you said you resonate with that.
I do. I do. I think I've had the same voices in my head talking to me that, you can power on, you can do it, but also the feeling of, I do it for everybody else. How come they don't do it for me? And as you were talking, I'm like, because I never asked them to.
Exactly.
I never put out, you don't put out the, hi, can I please have some help? But what I have found is because, and I think we touched on this before we popped on today too, is the idea that our society is so indoctrinated around the strong, independent woman, equality of women, which is fantastic. I love that there is the opportunities for us to go out and, do the jobs we want to do, be the people that we want to be, have the opportunities outside we didn't have a long time ago. But it's almost swayed almost too far to the other side, where in providing those opportunities for us, we have been pushed into being in our masculine, to be those strong, independent, self-reliant women. And that we've lost sight of how do we balance with the feminine? What does it really mean to be feminine? Right? Like, what are the qualities of being feminine? Like, they talk about, feminine being nurturing, soft, and receiving and releasing, and that's wonderful, but they don't teach us how to do that anymore. It's not modeled for us anywhere. And so for me, I can give a quick example. I always thought it was amazing to be this strong, independent woman. And it's not until recently, when I've been doing some deep dive work into myself, realizing how much I live in the masculine. And I really want to live more equally in the feminine, because it's a beautiful place to be. That because I've been so vocal about being independent, strong, and I can do whatever I want, all this, quite often what happens is when I then turn around and ask for help, it gets thrown back at me. Like, oh, well, aren't you the strong, independent woman who can do it for yourself? And it's like, yes, but I actually would like some help with this. And then as a result, I pull back from asking for help. And it's like this vicious circle of, I'm asking for help because I would really like some help, but now you're throwing it back at me because I've talked about how independent and I can do everything myself, that I'm not going to keep asking for help because I don't want it thrown back at me. It's uncomfortable. You're sort of like, yeah, but, and so that's that cycle, right? I don't know if you've found that too.
Absolutely. And as I've used the mirror analogy a lot with when I'm doing coaching. So using the mirror analogy in that, which I've used in myself also, is when we project outwards all the time that we're strong and we're masculine, in that masculine energy. I want to be independent. I want to be self-sufficient. I want to be self-reliant. I want people to see me as this strong, independent woman. That when that gets mirrored back afterwards, it's like, oh, yeah, I feel that, but on the receiving end of the other person, that's the masculine, when they offer help and they get told, no, I'm an independent woman, they feel that also. It's finding that balance, because men have a feminine side too, that they have ever been taught how to tap into. So allowing emotions to flow. So for me, like we mentioned earlier, the women's movement, if you like, of women becoming more independent and having male jobs and doing that is phenomenal in a lot of areas. But as you said, we've lost the identity of being feminine. And there's another wave of losing the identity of being feminine that's actually a big movement right now. And so my big question to anybody out there that's feeling this, if you recognize either Margaret or my story, where you have become that strong, independent woman that believes that, you know, there's only you that can soldier through that. What is the other half of that nurturing, caring, emotional being that is being completely ignored, pushed down and suppressed, but comes up in a critic voice saying nobody's ever there for me, nobody wants me, nobody this, nobody this, nobody this. No. So you end up pushing people further away to create that strength that you become angry about then. Because now now you're doing it in a very different way of how you were taught and how I was raised. You know, that was just something that we were raised to be. And in the process of doing our deeper dive, we've recognized the feminine.
And I don't know about you, but I know when I was raised that way, there was also a very negative view of women who chose not to be the strong, independent women on the outward view, right? Those who chose to get married and stay at home and raise a family, it had swung the other way. And they were then viewed as, you know, old fashioned or not as independent or, you know, under the husband's control, whatever it was, that the view was still there. And I think for a while, for quite a while, there was the view that to be a strong, independent woman, you had to work outside of the home. You had to have something, that you had to have your own life. You couldn't just live your life for the person that you were married to or your partner or whoever, kids. And so now we're in a place where not only do we work outside the home, we also do a lot, like statistics are out there, we still do the majority of the work at home as well. And it's not that being at home is the feminine, but it was that idea of being able to not have to carry all of that on your shoulders, right? Not having to be that extremely independent, you know, CEO, bringing home the bacon woman. That it was okay to be at home and lean into that feminine side of nurturing and caring and being there for the kids, being there for your partner. So now it's like, how do we find that balance where we can, like, we've been fighting for a long time for equality and being able to do everything. But I guess the question I can throw out there could be very controversial, but is it realistic? Is it something that we should be doing, can be doing? You know, how we swung it too far in one direction, where women are losing sight of what it is to actually be
feminine. I
be
agree
feminine.
with you. And particularly, like I briefly touched on, you know, the other movement that's taking place right now, you know, and so that power of being feminine doesn't take away from the masculine. There has to be a balance between the feminine and the masculine, and the pendulum has swung both ways. So the pendulum swung to a very masculine dominated world, to one where women wanted their independence. They wanted to be seen as being independent. They wanted to be seen as, like you said, working outside of the home. But not only did the pendulum swing that way, we didn't equally balance everything else. Women took on that role of being independent and being the breadwinner, or bringing in as much money as the husband, and carving out that life for themselves, but took every other responsibility as well, where they still look after the home, they still take care of the kids, and not in all cases, because there are a lot of men out there that do that too. But when you take on those big roles, it puts you in a state of overwhelm, because now you're trying to do everything. And in the process of trying to do everything, you lose sight of who you are. You lose sight of the being that you are. We lose sight of being able to come back to that self-nurturing, self-caring. What does it mean to just be? What does it mean? What does it mean to be feminine? Does it mean that you are a girly girl that walks around like Barbie all day long, which, no disrespect to anybody that is that way? Awesome, perfect for your life. Or does it mean that there's a balance between that masculine and feminine, where you can have that independent life and have that nurturing time where you can be taken care of and receive it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting because I started doing the work in the masculine and feminine on myself recently. There was an epiphany, like so this light bulb moment. It's like when I go away on vacation, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
I want to be on the beach with my book, music, and have the cabana boy bringing me drinks. Like I don't want to do anything. I just want to be. I want to sit. I want to enjoy the sunshine. I don't want to be active. I don't want to decide what I'm having for dinner. I don't want to decide anything for those 7 or 10 days that I'm away. I want to just sit and receive. And I realize that's how I have been putting myself into my feminine to try and balance it out over the years without actually realizing that's what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It was the, I go, if we go away, if my boyfriend and I go away, he is not the one who wants to sit on the beach. He wants to go and explore and do and I'm like, okay, that's great. I don't because I find that exhausting and I don't get a chance to not do and not constantly be go, 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 go. And to just sit and receive for me is so exciting that that's where, and that's, same thing for taking half an hour to soak in the tub, put some
Yeah.
candles on, have a glass of wine, put some music on. That is capturing the feminine for me too. Again, it's that relax and receive and just
Yeah.
be
Or,
still, be in the moment.
yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
agree. Or if a friend comes over and says, can I help you with your dishes while you do something else? Instead of going, no, 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 it's all good. I can do it. And then feeling overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
and feeling like nobody helps you, actually say
Mm-hmm.
yes. If somebody says, oh, you're in a mess right now, can I come and help you sort something out? Say, oh, that's amazing. Thank you. Not, no, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, I can do it. And then again, berate yourself or
Mm-hmm.
say to yourself, nobody's ever there for you because the evidence is that they are.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
But
The
we're
evidence is that people will offer help. But because we are so used to saying, no, 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 I'm going to martyr myself. No, 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 I'm in victim. No, 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 I'm a strong, independent woman that's heavily into my masculine. Or no, 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 for whatever other reason that I can't make myself vulnerable.
mm-hmm.
Then recognize when people offer help and then choose to receive it. But if you choose not to, know that you're making that choice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that reaction has become habit and is a knee-jerk
Oh, yeah.
reaction. It comes out of our mouth before we even know that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I know
yeah.
it's been
And
really hard for me.
asking for help has been really hard for me too,
Yeah.
because there's a big part of me that figures I'm a strong, independent woman. I should be able to do this for myself. And then we should all over ourselves, which
Yeah. From a
you
great.
should not do. We should not do. Um, and asking for help is probably one of the biggest things you can do to be in your feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Just asking for help and accepting help, being open to receiving help. Um, and it seems like a very simple thing,
And
but
it's not weakness.
it's not a weakness.
It's a
You
strength.
know, it is a strength. It is a strength. And I've started to be much more open to allowing, I don't even like that word, but being open to having other people support me. Like
Yeah.
with the camp that I'm running this summer with my colleague, she works full time. I work full time in my coaching, but we're also putting this camp together for the summer. We've got 2 weeks this summer that we're running for the girls. And there's so much to do with it, right? But there's me going, well, she's working full time. I'll do it because it's under my business. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, I
Yeah.
can't do everything.
No.
And so when she says, oh, I can do this, I can do this, I have to bite my lip and then say, okay, that sounds great. You do
Yeah.
that. Because, because I'm like, oh, I'm not used to having somebody offer to help, somebody partner on things. That's why I love collaborating.
Yeah.
Love
Me too.
collaborating on things because then you can share the workload and come up with something even better than what you could do on your own. But yes, asking for help, that's become that's kind of like my new focus over the next couple of months, years. We'll see how that goes,
Yeah.
but just
However
really
long that
be
process
with
takes.
however long it takes. Yeah.
Yeah. I know for me that's been that anybody that knows me will be laughing if they hear this because it's like, yeah, Karen always found it really, really hard to ask for help. you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I was the one that would go, no, 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 it's okay, I've got this. No, 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 it's okay, I can do it later. No, no, no. And then feel like afterwards, well, how come I do this for X, Y, and Z and nobody? And when I had that epiphany, like you, when it dropped in,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, okay. And
Yeah.
I had to force myself, and I mean force
Mm-hmm.
myself to ask. In fact, the universe kind of lined things up for me, because like when I had the accident, I spent 3 months in a wheelchair, so I wasn't able. So the
Mm-hmm.
universe said, now what are you going to do? Are you going
Yep.
to pass, or are you still going to try and do it? You know, so yeah. And I when I smile now at some of the big things that have happened in my life to bring me to a point of understanding within myself, I
Mm-hmm.
recognize that those big catalyst moments that happen are awakening moments that make you go, okay, if I continue to do what I'm doing, where am I going to be?
Mm-hmm.
What needs to change
Mm-hmm.
within me? And I do agree that the pendulum needs to evenly swing between the masculine and the feminine, being that strong,
Mm-hmm.
independent person that is going to carve your own way and have the
Mm-hmm.
passion and the fire and the emotion and everything else that comes with it from the feminine, to
Mm-hmm.
put the fire into that makes you actually feel like you're living and not just existing,
Mm-hmm.
processing, trying to just do all the time.
Oh, 100%. I agree with that. I agree with that. And so it's going to be interesting watching what unfolds over the next decade in our
Absolutely.
society with the
Absolutely.
movement coming forward, and seeing how do we balance that out? How
Yeah.
do we get back to center? Not to swing in the other direction, but how do we get back to center where
Mm-hmm.
we can live in both the masculine and the feminine and not feel guilty or overwhelmed if we're in one or the other,
Yeah.
right? There's and how do we and how do we introduce this to both women and men, right? How do we
100%, because it's not
it's
just
not
about.
just no, it's not just about women. It's how do we introduce this back to women and men and allow and make it okay
Yeah.
for you to be in both and that accepted behavior
Yeah.
without people, overly judging. Oh, people always judge, so it'll always be there. But it's how do you figure that out for yourself? How do
Yeah.
we talk about carving out self-care time, and I know it's very much focused on women when we talk about self-care. You go out into the industry, it's all about women and self-care, but we don't talk a lot about men and self-care because they need it too.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
self-care can be so highly aligned with being in your feminine because you are focusing on you. You are slowing down. You're doing things that bring you pleasure. You're receiving and
Mm-hmm.
releasing at the same
Yeah.
time.
So
Mm-hmm.
again, if you're a guy out there, and if you have that feeling, or I'm a guy, I'm a man's man, well, that's great. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a man's man, that's really, really great, but you do have a feminine side. And what does that
Mm-hmm.
feminine side look like to you? How do you nurture and care for yourself? How do
Mm-hmm.
you just go and have a drink with the boys, or do you go fishing? What time do you take for you to recharge your battery? How do you express emotion? Is it
Mm-hmm.
just something that you become angry at and shove it down? I know a lot of men can put things in a big cast iron box and throw it into the ocean wrapped in chains, and they never want to look at it again. But
Mm-hmm.
how do you process that? And a lot of this comes down to feeling safe. It's
Mm-hmm.
also feeling safe, knowing that on a level you need to be vulnerable, and knowing
Mm-hmm.
that strength in vulnerability, and creating the right space within your own environment where you can express both sides of yourself. And that
Mm-hmm.
becomes the question to both men and women. What does it look like to you to fully step into your masculine and feminine side, so that you can be wholeheartedly you,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can
Mm-hmm.
be that being that enjoys expressing yourself in a way, and rolling your sleeves up and digging in ditches, whatever that is, and find that balance.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a personal exploration for everybody, but
Absolutely.
definitely well worth the exploration because I think when we can live in both sides of our energy, it really does balance us out, and it really gives us, like you said, that wholehearted life where we're getting the
100%.
best of both. And we were meant to have both. We were meant to have
Absolutely.
both.
Yeah.
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 And I know a lot of women that I've met, that are very, very, very much in that masculine. some of them become very, very angry and have a lot of suppressed anger because they've never either been taught or know how to step into that feminine side and feel again like it's weakness. So again, so ask yourself that question: what does it look like for you to fully step into your masculine and feminine, and how would you express that? And journal it, or message us, or let's start a conversation. Yeah, what would you say, Margaret?
I would say, when you're asking yourself about what it looks like for you, one of the things that is an extremely feminine side of things is listening to your intuition, right? And I think an exercise I did recently was, when I had made decisions in the past, when did they work out and when didn't they? And what were the outcome? And I looked back as to, how did I make those decisions? What was I listening to at the time? Was I listening to how I felt about it, or was I really going down the logic route, listening to what other people thought I should be doing? The times where I leaned into my feminine and really went with my intuition and my feeling and went, no, this is the decision, it always worked out. The times where I was persuaded and leaned into more of the logic and what should happen and what's expected, those ones sometimes worked out, but not always. And if they did work out, they weren't always to the best outcome that they could have been. And so for me, when I started looking into the masculine and feminine, how it's showing up in me, learning to trust that intuition and look back and see the evidence, because I love evidence. I like to know that what I'm doing is going to be effective. Really, for me, it was really starting to tune back into that intuition and trust it, and really trust that, yes, I do know what the answer is when I'm making a decision. And that's just a simple example, but that's one area that it could show up for other people as well.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, as always, Margaret, our time goes so quickly. We could get into all sorts of different conversations, and we likely will. But I want to thank you for joining me here today. And for everybody watching this video, please share. You never know who needs to hear this today. Maybe somebody that you know is trapped into that they just have to do very, very masculine side, and doesn't know quite how to break free and tap into the emotional feminine side. And maybe the other way, that maybe they're too feminine and don't know how to tap into the masculine, because it definitely works both ways. So please share this video. If you have any messages, please message Margaret or I, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday next week. Bye for now.
Bye.